Good afternoon. My name is Dakota H, and my presentation is on alternate materials for the fashion industry. For context, syncretism is a common mechanism throughout the United States, becoming a norm among society. Ritualistic syncrety has connected people in a way that is emotionally rewarding, making them continue. According to the first stimulus article, it states how engaging in conformity allows groups to overestimate their own formability and see their competition as less threatening. Conformity also makes groups appear incentive, cohesive, and physically formidable to outsiders. When talking trends, fashion is becoming harmful. Cheap, one-time clothing is growing. Companies often produce thousands of garments a day to keep up with the daily wants of customers. The author of the third stimulus article briefly mentions pollution and environmental hazards that comes with fast fashion, but fails to mention animal cruelty. This graph above shows us how teens conform to fast fashion. As we see, they spend double the amount on fashion as they do on anything else in the chart, and as much on fashion as they do on food. This has led me to my research question. To what extent has animal cruelty resulted from the increasing rates of product consumption throughout the United States? The stimulus packet provided me with information on what social syncrety was and how fast fashion results from it, but fails to mention animal cruelty regarding fashion. Animal cruelty is more of a problem than one may think in today's world. According to PETA, People for Ethical Treatment of Animals, an international nonprofit organization with over 9 million members, leather and wool are quite common in the fashion world, but are made from sheep, goats, pigs, snakes, seals, emus, and more. They experience extreme branding, confinement, deprivation, and anesthetized castration before slaughter. Other exotic and endangered animals are murdered for their skin. For example, snakeskin is used for purses, and alligator skins are used for shoes. Along with this, the sick animals are forced to go untreated, as they're all combined into one space, receiving little care. This graph just shows how many animals are killed per year due to the fast fashion world. My argument for this is bio-based fur. Bio-based fur is a fox fur that is plant-based, mechanically recyclable, and most importantly, does not require the slaughter of animals. This option is cheaper for customers, therefore it is economically bearable. Along with this, many industries are slowly converting to organic and alternative supplies as consumers learn the underlying effect of their purchases. For example, in the journal investigating the sustainability of the Korean textile and fashion industry, researchers from the Department in Clothing and Textiles state the methods used with organic materials and green campaigning messages appear frequently. Companies are trying to work with environmentally friendly clothing to remain ethical to concerned customers. However, concerned customers are only mildly involved, still purchasing items that are animal-made daily. Animal activists are more active in prohibiting the slaughter of animals. For example, Gucci, an expensive and fashionable clothing chain, was slammed for the international trade and killing of animals. In the article, Gucci is branded hopelessly out of touch by consumers and animal rights activists. Reporter Jessica Summers finds comments made by activists stating, "While it's at it and needs to stop the slaughter of animals, which PETA has shown causes extraordinary suffering." The public makes repeated attempts to stop animal cruelty, as from their perspective it is not moral, and we can see how they are in agreement that there needs to be alternate materials used. Some limitations for the solution. Although it would help, it does not solve the problem of mass animal cruelty. There needs to be a greater elimination of clothing, not just small sections of stores being organic. For instance, researcher Kylie Fuller states that Shein states they're an ethical company, but they only offer 62 out of their 52,000 dresses made from organic materials. This shows that not many alternations are being made, and companies can trick society into believing they are ethical. This graph above just shows how it's projected to increase for money made off of animal-made products in the future, based off how it was from 2014 to 2025. Digging deeper into the large corporations' perspective, not much of their attention goes to animal cruelty. Companies, for example Shein, invest in production that is economically beneficial, not environmentally beneficial. According to journalists from the rest of the world, an international nonprofit organization that researches the impact of culture worldwide, Shein confirms they use the large-scale automated test and reorder model, where they upload small batches of each product and see how buyers respond. If they react positively, Shein orders more, uploading anywhere between 2,000 to 10,000 garments daily. By doing this, they do not consider how it affects the animals' lives, and they respond only based on the economical value of their customers. Producing less fur is another solution I've considered, as it lessens animal cruelty by not having as many animals killed. Along with this, it would help pollution. It would force customers to stop feeding into the fast fashion trend. Doing nothing is another solution I've considered. It is the easiest to enforce since there would be no difference in our society. They would not affect the economical value of clothing or customers. These, however, are unfortunately not reasonable with the increase in fast fashion seen today. Consumer demand is becoming greater with online and in-store purchases increasing. Authors from the University of Tennessee, Verica Baharwa and Anne Fairhurst, wrote the International Review of Retail, Distribution, and Consumer Research. In this article, they state that retailers are forced to create products containing low design, flexible cost, and speed to market. If they do not do these things, customers will lose interest and they will likely not make profit. Due to these fast fashion trends, we can see how these two solutions would not work. Even from a consumer's perspective, we can see how fast fashion is an issue. Referring back to the stimulus of fast fashion is eating the world, Rachel Monroe communicates her questions with Trisha Penlocki, a YouTuber who works in the clothing business. In this article, she states she is aware of the environmental harm that comes with her purchases, but there's nothing for her to do about it, as her sponsors advise her to hide anything harmful in her videos. She even states that her closet is so full, she puts extra clothing in suitcases. And from her perspective, we can see how they don't really care. Although a lot of consumers think that their one purchase doesn't matter, but this graph above shows how many animals it takes to kill for one fur coat and how many hours they're trapped in a cage. Psychologists believe that teenagers may do this because they want to conform with others and keep up with trends. In the journal, Driving Teen Egos and Buying Through Branding, researcher Karen Kirsting works with psychologist Susan Lin from Harvard Medical School. Lin states that by the time children reach their teens, at a developmental stage where they're naturally insecure and searching for an identity, they've been taught that material possessions are what matter. From a psychologist's point of view, one could see it as natural for teenagers to feel insecure and therefore turn to excessive clothing consumption. Ultimately, using bio-based fur would eliminate a sufficient amount of animal cruelty caused by fashion conformity. Fast fashion is creating harmful trends for wildlife, including the excessive production of cheap one-use clothing. From many successful industries and perspectives of large corporations, animal activists, consumers, and psychologists, one can see how it is the most effective solution. And although it may be hard for some companies to afford, it is critical to protect the lives of animals. This is my works.
All right, cool. Good job. Now you have your oral defense questions. So my first question for you is, did your research go in a different direction than you originally expected?
I had first expected my research to take the road down the environmental path of pollution, things like this that are from fast fashion, but as I dug deeper into the stimulus material, I realized that was already covered pollution in the first stimulus article, in the third one. So I took it more down a route of animal cruelty and how it affects the wildlife rather than the pollution in the actual environment.
Okay. Your second question is, how is your solution in conversation with other pieces of published work about this topic?
Other pieces of published work that I researched, this kind of showed me what fast fashion was and how it is increasing. And I thought at first that my solution would be to produce less fur and less clothing from animal-made clothing. But as I researched more into literature, I found that this wouldn't work because of fast fashion. So I had to make my solution align with this and find that the best solution would be using bio-based fur due to the fast fashion trends and how corporations are putting up with it.
Okie dokie. Awesome job.